Yes, yes. All right. With this election hysteria being over and whatnot, people might be a little calmed down now, but there's still some things that I got to point out and bring to the forefront for the so called pro blacks, individuals that don't understand that these so called white liberals are some of the most racist individuals and they do not have your best interests at heart, especially the so called black man, because the so called black man is at the bottom of the totem pole. Nobody gives a shit about you. They only use your plight for attention, and at the end of the day, they're gonna throw you in the trash where you belong, according to them. Everybody's above you, the Caucasian liberal, the black liberal, the gays and the homosexuals. All those liberation movements are above your own. The only time that they want to hear you talk is if it has anything to do with their interests. They don't want so-called black men thinking for themselves. They don't want you to be a critical thinker. They don't want you to be a leader. They don't want you to be a man. They want you to be a fucking baby boy. They want you to be some emotional thug that's gonna contribute to the prison system. You're going to contribute to the government system, meaning paying child support or whatever. But they don't want you being a functional human being in this society because this society is not for you. Now, everybody wants to quote Malcolm X, but nobody wants to quote that Malcolm X said that you have to watch out for the white liberal. They're like a fox. Everybody's blinded by the Caucasian liberals because they tell you everything that you want to hear. They act like they're your friend. Yet another 4 years go by, you're in the same fucking spot that you was in before. But yet everybody gets mad at the people that say they're not voting this year or they don't want to get involved in that situation because they're not brainwashed by the mainstream media and whatnot. Meanwhile, you got the other people that are trying to make moves behind the curtain. They're not out here screaming and shouting, asking the white man for a hug and a handout. They're not out here talking about defund the police because you know where the police are. They're in the so-called black communities where the crime is the highest. So all these fucking Caucasian liberals, they are not your friend. They are not for you. They will never have your best interest for you. How are we going to be in a system that was created by the Caucasians that you're going to ask them for help? That help doesn't come from them. That help is going to come from within. It's going to come from us. So I got to play this video real quick because this broad, Chelsea, the so-called nigga handler, just shows her Nazi roots. And when I say Nazi roots, her great grandfather was a Nazi. And then you have her who has her Jewish side. So she just shows you that slave master mentality from the fucking 1860s, telling the so called black man, what the hell are you doing? You do how I tell you to think. You do what I tell you to do. You think how I tell you to think. You got to remember that these people didn't want you to read or write for about like numerous years. So why the fuck would they want you to get elevated to be on an equal playing field? Y'all got to wake up and smell the coffee. But let's check out what she got to say.
Go. You heard about my ex-boyfriend, right? 50 Cent and his support of Donald Trump.
Yeah, what's going on between you? I saw your tweets and I go, wait, what's happening? Because you said he was your favorite ex-boyfriend, and then what does he do? He's supporting.
Yeah, that weird ass relationship, man. That shit was probably staged to either give her some fucking publicity amongst the quote unquote culture and then give 50 Cent a little raise into the global mainstream media, all that nonsense, man. That was a fucking farce.
He says he doesn't want to pay 62% of taxes, which, by the way, isn't a plan of Joe Biden's. That's a lie. So he doesn't want to pay 62% of taxes because he doesn't want to go from being 50 cent to 20 cent. And I had to remind him that he was a black person. So
Now, if anybody that's a so-called black man, woman, kid, anybody in the so-called black community, if you do not find what she just said offensive, you are part of the fucking problem. You're living in a delusional state and you need to wake the fuck up ASAP. How is somebody Caucasian gonna have to tell, is gonna make a public statement? I had to remind him that was black, that he's black. For her to even fix her mouth to say that is no regard for anything because she knows she's not going to get any backlash from the pro-black liberals because they're idiots. How can you allow somebody to say that? It doesn't matter if it's about a celeb, this, that, and the third. For anybody to say that means they're 100% comfortable saying that because they know nothing's going to come back their way. We're talking about 50 Cent, who responds for less. He would have dragged the so-called black woman through the media, saying all types of jokes. Look what he did with one of those bras that was on Love and Hip Hop show. I forgot. She was broke or some shit like that, owed him money or whatever, dragging her through the mud. You know what I mean? Come on, man.
Can't vote for Donald Trump, and that he shouldn't be influencing an entire swath of people who may listen to him.
That's what it's really about. 50 Cent got millions upon millions of followers, Twitter, IG, whatever platform. Now, if he was to hit about 25% of the 18 million followers just on one platform, right? That's about what, 4.5 mil people? Now, let's just say if he hit 4.5 million so-called black men to make them critically think and say, why is every black individual always voting for Democrats and hate the Republicans? Mainly because the Democrats act like they're your friend and the Republicans tell you what it is and what you need to do for yourself. But at the end of the day, neither side is for us. The only people that are going to liberate us are ourselves. Specifically, the black man has to get it together because we're supposed to be leading everybody, but we're not looked at as a leader. We're looked at as some fucking pitiful dog with no sense of direction. And the only person that can help us is the Caucasian man and the Caucasian woman at the end of the road. Come on, man.
Because he's worried about his own personal pocketbook. So I haven't heard back from him yet, but I am willing to, seal the deal in more ways than one if he changes his mind and publicly denounces Donald Trump. I might be willing to go for another spin, if you know what I'm talking about.
So not only is she influencing a person's vote, which is also illegal, she's going to the oldest profession in the world, which is prostitution. Like, who the hell wants to watch? Like, who the hell is trying to touch that washed up box in the first place? For one. And not only is that's just on one note. So she's saying, black man, you cannot think for yourself. And then on another note, she knows that the so-called black man is one of the biggest simp, if not the biggest simp on the planet Earth. She offers her washed up box because I guess the so-called black man cannot resist pussy for 5 minutes. So that's how low of a level they think of you. So if you're not offended, you need to throw up on yourself because this shit gotta end. Period.